All right, here we go. So today I'd like to explore together with you what I'm going to call the zero way. And the reason I'd like to explore this together with you is because my proposal is that this zero way very possibly may offer you what it is that you actually want, may actually be able to deliver on the promise, without a promise. So I'm tempted to not offer anything other than that as a temptation to explore this together. But I suppose you might want to know what you're getting into. Another thing popped up on the screen. Zoom is doing this thing now after the meeting starts, after some amount of time, then it pops up another thing. I don't know why it does that. Just so that I have another button to click. So I've clicked another button. But um, let me give you some other uh, introduction to this topic and why it might be of interest to you, and then we can get into the exploration itself. So perhaps you've noticed in your life that no matter what you do, that you still always have this underlying something or other that seems like maybe it's a problem. And you might call it by different names, and maybe you call it anxiety, or maybe you call it discomfort, or being ill at ease, or insecure, or whatever other name you might have for it. I'm sure we could keep coming up with names. People have come up with a lot of different names and a lot of different theories about it, which may have merit and value or may not. Uh, but perhaps you've noticed that. Perhaps you've noticed that uh, sometimes it seems really intense and strong, and then you're searching for some kind of solution to it. And then other times you think maybe you've got a solution and you're working to try to apply that solution. And so temporarily you're kind of distracted in a way from the whatever this is. But then maybe well, then there would be two kind of outcomes there. At times you would have a sense that you've actually succeeded with whatever the thing is that you're doing. And other times you would feel like maybe you failed in whatever it is that you think you're doing. Now, if you think you failed, then that's probably going to lead to a kind of despair. Or you'll just go back, you'll feel like again you're dealing with the intensity of whatever this underlying thing is, and you're searching for the next solution. Other times, though, when it seems like you've succeeded, then you might notice that even though you've succeeded, still, strangely, there's some kind of thing there still. It's maybe not as intense in the same way as it is at those times when you're really seeking for the answer or the solution, but it still seems to be there. And maybe you didn't identify it's the same thing, but if you really explore it, you might notice that it's kind of the same thing, and we don't really know exactly what that is. We call it, again, by many names. But there's something there, something that seems to not quite be right. And so what I'm proposing is that maybe uh, we never really actually familiarized ourselves with what that actually is. Maybe we've been taught to settle for the various names and theories and so forth. And so we're just kept on this kind of hamster wheel where we're just chasing and spinning, seeking and grasping for something that we think and hope will save us from whatever this dreaded thing is, but we never actually really found out what it actually is. So we're we're running, We're trying, we're scheming, we're exerting ourselves, we're straining, but we don't actually know for sure why. Now, if you stop most people and you say, "Well, what are you doing all this for?" They'd say, "Well, are you kidding? I mean, it's obvious. I have this ailment or that ailment. You know, I have to. I have to because I have anxiety. I have to because I have chronic pain. I have to because I have this disease. I have to because I suffer from narcissistic parents. I have to because whatever the reason is." And again, there may be relative value and merit to those ways of thinking about it and approaching it. What I'm proposing that we can explore here is really not meant to be uh, a replacement for those things, although maybe it could be in some cases, but it's not really something that I'm proposing needs to be a replacement. It's more like a parallel track. It's something that is independent from that way of thinking, that way of perceiving, that way of living your life. And that by exploring this, whatever else you may or may not do, perhaps this exploration might enrich your life in a way that no other approach has done or possibly even could. So if that's something that seems relatable to you, if you can recognize that there seems to be this thing that's always there, and maybe sometimes it seems more or less intense, but there's always something there that you just feel like I can't quite get right. I can't quite get comfortable. I can't quite feel totally at ease. Then I think probably you're going to find this exploration to be of value. Will this necessarily give you the things that you think you want? That I cannot promise. And so if that's the kind of thing that you're wanting, if you're wanting that kind of promise or guarantee that, stick with me for the next 45 minutes and by the end you're gonna get, the gold at the end of the rainbow, you'll be disappointed. And even if you're not disappointed, even if you get the gold at the end of the rainbow within 45 minutes, you'll be disappointed sooner or later because, between you and me, let's be honest, that stuff doesn't stick around, right? I mean, let's just be really honest about it because sometimes you get it. Sometimes you get the thing, right? I mean, has everybody here gotten the thing from time to time? Like you saw it after the thing, you saw it after the money or the relationship or the six pack abs or the skill that you wanted to develop or the, number of followers on Instagram or whatever it is that you were attempting, big or small, the grade on the test, the approval from the teacher, the whatever, you got it, right? You've gotten something at some point along the line that you thought was going to give you what you really wanted, and maybe temporarily it does give you something, but in the long run you end up disappointed, right? Because it's like, is this all I get? Is this what life is all about? Is I just chase after one thing and then another, just so that I can have these temporary distractions from this underlying thing that I don't even know what it is, but I'm certain that it must be awful and I must avoid it because everybody else is doing the same thing. And you just kind of like, oh man, is this all there is? Is this what I'm supposed to do for the next how long? 45, 70 years? Like, is that what I'm supposed to do? So I'm just thinking probably all of us have had some experience of that where we feel like, is there is there possibly anything else in life other than this? And so that's what this is about. This is about that something else. It's not about just getting the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is maybe it's nice, maybe it's not nice, whatever it. But one thing I can say with a high degree of certainty about it is that it is transient. That's its nature. It's transient. It comes and it goes. And probably, I'm thinking, what we're all actually looking for is something that is not transient. So again, this is not meant to be a substitute for what is transient because, on a day-to-day basis, we want that, right? Give us our daily bread, right? Like we want that. We want to be able to have those things that are transient. And that's fine because I'm right there with you. I'm like if I'm cold, I want to be warm. If I'm hungry, I want to eat. If I'm thirsty, I want water. So I understand that. I appreciate that. I value that. And what I'm pointing to here, what I'm inviting you to explore together with me today, is something that is independent of that. So this is, and I know I'm repeating myself here a lot, but I'm doing so because I know that this is a point that many of us will easily overlook or get confused about or misinterpret because we're often looking for something that's so kind of black and white. We want to just know, okay, just tell me what to believe, tell me what to think, tell me what to do so that I can get the outcome that I think I want. And what I'm inviting us to is something different than that. And and still, I understand our minds, most of us are still going to go back to the old way and say, no, 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 hold on. Now, tell me what box to get into. Tell me what plan do I follow? What are the steps? I need to know what do I believe? What is this called? What's the philosophy so that I can tell other people what I'm now doing? And this isn't really not that. So you can keep your philosophy, your religion, your subculture, your isms. You can keep all of that to whatever degree you want to. And this zero way is something that can complement that. I think I would say probably in the literal sense of complement, as in completing, because probably you've noticed, and especially if you're sticking around this long, you've probably noticed because I've already kind of pointed this out, and you've probably already kind of looked and agreed that to some degree, the other things that you've done in your life haven't really satisfied this deeper longing for actual contentment or peace or freedom or this just spaciousness or the permission to really breathe, not not in some predetermined way, not in a mechanical way, not the way that your breathwork instructor told you, but actually to really breathe. Just the way that the breathing is moving through you and as you without judgment that it's right or wrong or it should be some other way. So hopefully, and I've said enough about all of that. So now for the uh, exploration. So this is meant to be an interactive process. This is not really meant to be a lecture. I don't think that a lecture would really do service to what it is that I'm wanting to invite you to. So hopefully that's something that you're interested in, something that you can make a little bit of space for in your life in this moment right now. You don't have to get into your like meditation position and do the thing, whatever that thing is, but you but if you can allow yourself to actually really be present for yourself, uh I think that would be a nice gift to offer yourself. So if you're also like listening to some other podcast and doing a whole bunch of other things at the same time, uh I think you would probably find this more satisfying and rewarding if you chose to just be present to this, to be present to yourself and your own experience, just for a little bit. It's totally your choice. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Hopefully, if I ever tell you what to do, then disregard it. It's always meant as an invitation. So So you could just notice, this is really an invitation to notice your actual experience. And I'm going to say some things, and I am hoping that you will not take the things that I say as the truth or as something to argue with, to agree with, or disagree with, but actually as something that you can use as an invitation to actually explore your own experience. So, of course, you're welcome to agree or disagree, um, but before any agreement or disagreement, there's something that I will suggest is probably far more important, and that is actually just to look or feel directly. So just to come into direct contact, very intimate contact with yourself as you are, not as an idea of yourself or how you should be or how you want to be or any of that, but to actually just come into direct contact with yourself. And then probably what you'll find is that agreement and disagreement are uh, no longer so interesting. Agreement and disagreement are turn out probably you'll find to be rather superficial. And what you'll likely find, but I really don't know what you'll find, but I have some suspicions based on my own explorations. I suspect you may find that even though this direct contact, direct uh, intimacy with yourself may almost certainly will not give you what you're accustomed to searching for, which is some kind of thing that you can grasp, some kind of label, some kind of philosophy, some kind of story that you can tell about it. So you can, tell your friends, oh, now I'm doing this. So, here's how you can learn more about it. So you can join me in my new 30-day quest to whatever. That never really turned out to actually really deliver on what you were hoping it would. And so even though what I'm inviting you to explore here is not going to, almost certainly, it's not going to look and feel the way that you're accustomed to. My proposal is that most likely you will find, if you're really willing to actually explore this very sincerely, I propose that you will very likely find that this will actually deliver to you what it is that you've really been looking for, but you didn't know how to understand it. And so so that's the first thing, and in a sense, that's the last thing, and that's the totality of it. Is just to notice yourself as you actually are right now, and so you can't really do that by thinking about yourself because any of the thinking about yourself is going to be at a distance. It's going to be some story that you're going to tell about yourself. Oh, I'm good. I'm bad. I'm smart. I'm stupid. I'm attractive. I'm ugly. I'm successful. I'm a failure. I'm spiritual. I'm unspiritual. On and on, right? These are all stories that you can tell, but they're always at a distance. And so this is an invitation to what you really can't tell any story about, but it's the basis of every story. I mean, every story depends upon this. Everything depends upon this because without this, then there's nothing else. You couldn't think without this. You couldn't feel without this. You couldn't, there's nothing that you could, there would be no experience without this. And if that's confusing to you, then you're probably doing it right. I mean, within reason. So, the goal of this, or my intention in sharing this or inviting you to this exploration, is not to uh, give you something that you can land on and settle there and say, aha, now I've got it. Now I know who I am. Now I know how I'm going to live my life. Now I know what my new way is. So the zero way probably doesn't seem like a way at all. In the sense that the most of the ways that we're accustomed to, they're they're going somewhere, right? There's where you are is not usually all that important to most of the ways because it's where you're going that is the focus. It's just usually assumed that where you are is not good. It's not desirable. It's just like, well, obviously this is a problem. So why give any attention to this? It's where I'm going. It's where I'm going to get to. So I've got to get there. Got to get to the other better place, the other better experience. And so the focus is on, okay, how do I get there? What steps do I take? What do I believe in? How should I think? How should I feel? How should I act? That's the way. The way is the means by which we're going to get to that destination. And then finally, I'll have the story is finally, then I'll have an experience and be what it is that I want. Then finally, I can feel good. Then finally, I can relax. Then finally, I can be happy. And so the zero way is not that kind of way because it's not a way to somewhere. It's actually here. And so you can't think your way there. You can't plan your way there, right? Because there is it's here. So you can't, you're not going to get there. So the zero way is really more of, in a sense, it's more of an awareness of all of the habits, the conditioning of attempting other ways, of attempting to get somewhere, of attempting to understand something, of attempting to escape, of attempting to accomplish. And again, I'm going to just point this out because, and I understand what I'm about to say is repetitive, but I'm going to point this out, and probably I'll point it out again because I think that this is a point that many of us are likely to get confused about. Is I'm not proposing that the other ways are bad. I'm not proposing that you need to make the other ways the enemy and say, aha, now I know the zero way is my only way. I've finally seen the light. Hallelujah. I'm never going to go back and, I'll never think and I'll never try and I'll never scheme and I'll never plan and I'll never do anything. I'll just be absolutely still and motionless. And that's the only way. I, I'm not proposing that. I'm also not proposing that that's necessarily problematic or bad. That's not what this is about. This is about an exploration, not about uh, getting somewhere. It's not about having a plan. It's not about not having a plan. And again, because I know many of us might say, think to ourselves, well, what's the point then? And this is, uh, in a sense, it's so completely pointless that nobody in their right mind would would be interested unless unless uh, they realized that all the other ways have failed to deliver on what it is that you really wanted. And so that's the basis of this is, because this zero way is it's not for people who are satisfied. If you're completely satisfied, why on earth would you want anything else, right? I mean, if you're completely satisfied with what you've already got, great. That's really wonderful. I mean, how fantastic. Uh, but the zero way. I'm proposing, and it's really just for you to find out. But my proposal is that the zero way is for people who are not completely satisfied, even though they've tried many other ways. They've tried, all the different ways, right? I mean, we've tried, not necessarily all the ways, but tried enough of the ways. You tried fitting in, you tried rebelling, you tried being good, you tried being bad, you tried being, seeking for approval, you tried rejecting society, you tried, well, lots of different things. You tried this philosophy, this religion, that religion. You've tried lots of different things. And even though some of them gave you whatever they gave you, and others didn't give you whatever they didn't give you, none of them provided you with the real satisfaction and fulfillment that you've actually been seeking for. So then this is an invitation to consider something that really it's radically different. Hopefully that's already somewhat clear. Radical in the sense of going to the root. Because fundamentally, what all of the other ways have in common is, as I pointed out earlier, is that they're going somewhere. There's somebody, and you assume that's you, right? And that someone is going somewhere. So you've got you, and then the destination, and then there's how you're going to get there. So the way is the medium by which you are going to get somewhere. So there's always a distance between you and where you're going, and then you need a way to get there. So all of the other ways have this in common, is this underlying structure. So there's so is you, and then something, whether that something is some a material possession, some relationship, some change in state, whatever it is. There's some destination, some goal, something that you're wanting. So there's you and there's that, and then there's a relationship, and that relationship is the way. And that you can substitute out a lot of different ways, right? So you think, okay, here I am. Well, clearly I'm miserable and there's something wrong. And so what I want is something over there. I want the $1 million. I want the fame. I want the love. I want the six-pack abs. I want enlightenment. I want whatever it is, right? You want big, little, material, immaterial, whatever it is, but there's something that you want. And then you try lots of different ways. You think, oh, well, you know what I'll do? I'll get the college degree. Oh, gee, that didn't quite do it. I guess I'll go for the PhD. That didn't quite do it. Well, I guess I just need to, make $1 million. Oh, I got $1 million. Gee, that didn't quite do it. What do I need? I guess I need $1 billion. Now I got $1 billion. Gee, that didn't quite do it. Now what do I need? So that we can substitute out lots of different things for how we're going to get there. And we can even change out what the destination is because we think, oh, I need this. That doesn't now substitute a different destination, different goal, and different ways. But the underlying structure is always there of all of these attitudes that are very normal. And this is how most of society is organized. So, and again, I'm not suggesting that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. However, if it's not delivering what you ultimately want, then it's probably worth considering or questioning, uh, is that actually going to ever lead to what you want? It might lead to some things, right? It might lead to the attainment of goals, and great, nothing wrong with that. But is that actually going to deliver on what you most fundamentally want? And if when you investigate that, you kind of think, doesn't seem all that likely. Doesn't seem all that likely based on my own experience, based on what I observe out there in the world. Because, it's like, how many people do you know who really are at peace, contented, truly happy, unconditionally? Not that many, right? I don't know that many. I mean, not that I know that many people. I mean, relative to the number of people that there supposedly are, I guess I know a statistically insignificant number of people. However, based on my own experience and my sampling of people who I come into contact with, it does not seem to me that I don't know. I don't know people who are genuinely uh, content, genuinely at peace. So if you also investigate in that, and what you also come up with is, yeah, it doesn't seem statistically very likely that doing what everybody seems to be doing and what society teaches is going to lead to the real fulfillment and contentment that I want, then maybe another way would be worth considering. So that's what the zero way is. Another way, a radically different way. Is it the one true way? Well, no, it's the zero way. It's not one way, it's the zero way. So, I'm not proposing here, okay, this is the one true way and you should abandon everything else and you should do anything. It's none of that. There's not nothing, there's no should here. If I say should, forget forget whatever I say after that, because that would be unskillful of me to say should. What I'm really meaning, though, is that you could there's a possibility here that you could investigate and possibly discover something uh, that is very, very different than what it is that you've been taught by society. And the teaching of society is, for most of us, it's all we've known. And it's so much of what we've known, and it's so reinforced that uh, to to really investigate this zero way for most of us is quite challenging, because we keep trying to fit it into the boxes of what we've already known. We're trying to fit it into the boxes of all of the other ways. And so the biggest challenge, I think, for many of us in really investigating the zero way is that uh, it's to really keep a genuinely open mind without trying to leap to conclusions and fit it into some box and say, oh, now I know what it is. Because it's kind of the big red flag. Okay. Anytime you think, now I know what it is. Well, almost certainly not. Right. Like, because if you know what it is, well, how do you know what it is? To know what something is, uh, in the conventional sense of knowing, is to have is really just to say, I've had a story and a label that I've applied to something from the past, and this also matches the same pattern, so I can call it by that same label and tell the same story about it. But that denies the living reality of what's here. The living reality of what's here has never been in the past, not as something that you can capture and say, now I know what it is. So when you think, I know what this is, then you could just investigate. How do you know what this is? What's the basis of that so-called knowing? And is that true? Is this that? And it's not. I mean, almost certainly it's not. Um, so again, if this seems confusing, you're probably doing it correctly. If it seems disorienting, unsettling, you're probably doing it correctly. Not that there is a correct way per se, but but those are probably useful indications that uh, you are investigating in a way that is really actually quite different than everything else that you have done before. And I'll just remind you again of why you might want to investigate in this way, because I understand the doubts could come up. Say, well, okay, hold on. Why am I doing this? What's the benefit of this? What is this going to give me? Uh, and it really just comes back to the recognition that what what you've done up to now has not yet really been able to address what's really been troubling you. And I'm proposing that that is likely because you made a fundamental assumption, because this is what society on the whole has been doing, is just making the assumption of, I already know who I am. I already know what my experience is. I already know what's here, and this is no good, or it's not good enough. There's a problem with this. and and I therefore need something else. And so that forms the basis of everything else, because if I mean, if you assume that that's true, well, then just notice you are absolutely ripe for everything that society is going to come to you and propose to you, right? It's like, well, now try our new and improved formula. Now try this. Now with 30% more whatever power, and you're like, wow, yeah, maybe that will do it for me. Maybe it will do it for me. Why not? It sounds promising. I mean, look at the testimonials. It worked for Sally. It worked for Bob. It worked for Tim. It might work for me. And again, I'm not, there's a time and place for many things, but this invitation is just the basis of this invitation is that you can recognize that you, you that's been the operating uh, process in your life, was just the assumption. It wasn't even a conscious assumption. It was this unconscious assumption of something's not right. Something needs to change. And therefore, the answer is going to be out there somewhere. Somebody else has the answer. Even if that somebody else is not even a person, but it's like there's something, oh, other than here, that is going to be able to save me from whatever is so not right about what's here. And so the seeking is for that salvation of finally the relief from what's here, but without actually investigating what is actually here. What is this? And the difficulty with the investigation of what is this or what's here is that that investigation is still usually looking to understand what's here by comparing to some other idea from the past, none of which will actually really work long term. Because if you say whatever you can say about it, Just wait 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 years, and it won't quite fit any longer because the actual nature of what's here is alive. It's really alive. So alive that it allows for everything. The good, the bad, the desirable, the undesirable, all of it, right? Like everything is emerging from from this aliveness that's here. So the invitation is just to notice, but then because the habit is to try and grasp it, to understand it, to control it, to predict it, to be able to say something about it, to cage it, to say, okay, now I know what I'm going to do. Always, it's like wants to fall back into that familiar pattern of, okay, just tell me, what do I do? Because the assumption is there's something wrong. There's something that's not right. And I need a way that I can understand, that I can map out so that I can apply that in the future. So that then hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to arrive at some kind of destination in the future that will forever be really pleasant and nice, as opposed to the not quite so pleasant and not quite so nice reality that seems to be here. And and again, this invitation of the zero way is to something that is so radically different because this is not about trying to get away. It's not about trying to fix. It's not about trying to understand or analyze. It's not about a future state or destination. It's not about controlling anything or predicting anything. So you might notice that your thinking mind, which is maybe for many of us what we're accustomed to just being uh, very fixated on, identified with even, that turns out that the thinking mind really can't can't really help in this investigation, in this inquiry, because the thinking mind is only able to consult the past and then try to pattern match. So it will say, this is like that. So if you're, whatever your thinking mind has to say about this, just notice whatever it can say about it. It's just drawing from the past. It has to, because that's where all the thoughts come from. The thoughts are all from the past. You can say it's a limitation. It is a limitation, but it's not like a deficiency. It's not, I mean, that's just what it does. It's not like bad thinking mind. The thinking mind is thinking mind. It's great. It's how we could show up here. Maybe. I mean, that's a story about it too. Maybe that's not even true, but to a certain degree, I mean, it's how we can tell a story about it. It's how I can say, here's the meeting. The meeting is happening at this time. Here's how you can attend the meeting. It's how I could, send out an email. It's all things can happen in that way. The words that are happening, the so-called understanding of the words, it's all happening through the power of the thinking mind. It's fine. It's great. No problem. And it has a certain limitation, which is it can only draw from the past. It does. That's all it's got. I mean, try to think about something other than the past without consulting the past. You can't do it. It's always this is like that. This is like that. This is like that. Except this is not like that. This is not like anything. This is not like anything. This simply is. This is. So you don't need to stop your thinking mind. I mean, good luck with that. I mean, I assume there are ways of stopping the thinking mind, but probably you don't really want those, right? I mean, it probably would involve some kind of damage. So m- possibly the thinking mind is not an impediment, even though it has limitations. So what? That doesn't mean that the fact that it exists with limitations is actually a limitation to you. It's just that it is a limit. It has limitations, but that those limitations don't limit you. It's like whatever vehicle you choose to use to travel has limitations, whether it's your feet or a skateboard or a bicycle or an airplane or a hang glider or whatever. There are limitations of the vehicle. Okay, so what? I mean, that's just if you're trying to go somewhere. If your aim is to go somewhere, if that's the goal, then it matters. But here in this exploration that I'm inviting you to, the goal is not to get somewhere. So the whatever limitations there might be in whatever the instruments and tools that we have, it doesn't matter because we're not trying to get somewhere. So it doesn't matter. So you don't need to try to stop your thinking mind. You don't need to try to correct the thinking mind. You don't need to try to silence the thinking mind. You don't need to concern yourself. It's the I'll, I'll mention this story that I've told many times uh, about apparently incorrectly. I remembered it slightly incorrectly. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of the story, but um, the this is the Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby story. And so this story, I got it mixed up in the past. I uh, told it where Brer Rabbit is tricking Brer Fox, but I guess it's the other way around. So you can choose whichever variation you prefer. But in the maybe more accurate representation, uh, Brer Fox creates a doll out of a lump of tar, which is very sticky, and he places it on the path where Brer Rabbit likes to walk, and then uh, tricks Brer Rabbit into uh, thinking that this is a real living entity, and Brer Rabbit gets upset with the Tar Baby when the Tar Baby won't respond to him, because Brer Rabbit says good day, and Tar Baby won't respond to him. So Brer Rabbit, getting upset, strikes the Tar Baby with one of his paws, and of course his paw gets stuck. And then he gets even more upset, so he hits the Tar Baby with another one of his paws, and that paw gets stuck, and so on until he's completely stuck to the Tar Baby. And this is like getting in a fight with your mind. This is like trying to control your mind, trying to silence your mind. Every time you are trying, you're you're just getting more and more stuck. And I'm proposing, yeah, you don't need to. It's not a problem. Why make it a problem? It's going to do its thing. It's doing great. It's operating absolutely perfectly. Well, I mean, that might seem like a crazy idea. You might say, "Oh, no, 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 my mind's not operating perfectly. My mind is got all kinds of problems. It's troubling me all the time." Okay. And how well has that been working for you to believe that there's something wrong with your mind or any part of you, right? If you think there's something wrong with anything about you, how well has that been working for you? Chances are it's kind of like the tar baby story, right? The more you try to fix it, the more agitated you become, the more stuck you become. Then you become desperate because you think, now look how terrible it is. I really have to do something about this. Then you just keep getting more and more stuck. So the zero way is, again, radically different. It's just, at least for a moment, because again, this is not about necessarily making this a way of life or anything like that. I mean, maybe you choose to do that and maybe not. That's not what this invitation is about, though. The invitation is much, much, much simpler and so uh, really, if you really understand this, it's not even threatening in the least. It might seem threatening only to the degree that you uh, try to make it about something other than exactly what it is, because it's only about right now, really only in this instant. It's not about getting somewhere else. It's not about having a new strategy for how you're going to live your life. It's really just about this one instant right now. So, how threatening is that? Just for one instant? Don't worry about what your mind is doing or not doing. Don't worry about the quality of the thoughts, the content of the thoughts, whether there are thoughts or not thoughts, if the thoughts are loud or quiet or whatever. That's just for one instant, right now. So, if for one instant, not forever, but just for one instant right now, if you don't concern yourself with what happens in your mind, with what thoughts happen or don't happen, just for one split second, 1 millisecond, then just for this 1 millisecond, just notice what is this actual experience? And you could consider the same for anything else. So like feeling. So not about what will happen, not about having a new strategy for how you're going to deal with whatever, however you feel or whatever might happen in the future, even even a second from now, but just for 1 millisecond right now, if you just don't concern yourself, you're not trying to ignore it. You're not trying to protect yourself against it. You're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to understand it, but just really don't do anything. Don't protect, don't armor yourself, don't try to feel it. Just for one split second. And just in this one instant, what do you notice? So I think for me, maybe for other people, maybe you'll notice something like this too. When the thoughts come uh, in regard to this so-called zero way, then they might be thoughts like, well, how practical is this? Or I'm not sure that it's working. Or wow, that's amazing, but how do I do that again? Or how do I hold that? Or how do I keep it? Or how will I use that in the future? Or I'm not sure I understand, or this is weird, or this, I mean, all kinds of thoughts like that, right? And so that's fine. Uh, And what happens if just again for 1 millisecond right now, not trying to stop the thoughts, not fighting with the thoughts, not arguing with the thoughts, not trying to analyze or understand the thoughts, and not just do nothing, just absolutely nothing, just for 1 millisecond right now, then what do you notice? So some people put their responses in the chat. We got relief, feel free, emptiness, no idea. Great, right? I mean, because there's no right or wrong. There's just whatever you notice. And and from moment to moment, what you would say about it would change. Sometimes what you would say about it, you would say, "Oh, this is really wonderful," and other times you'd say, "This is the worst possible thing." I wonder though, do you notice that this is really different than the usual way? I think it's very different because I think that this is actually allowing yourself to be as you are without a plan of how to get there. Because it sounds nice. Oh, be as you are, be yourself, be authentic. But then we want to know, okay, what's the 12-step plan to get there? How can I ensure that I'll be myself tomorrow? And what I notice about all of that is it's still this attempt to try and control this that's here, to try and escape from this that's here, try and do something. Because there's still this underlying assumption that whatever's here is problematic, dangerous, unbearable. And as I have said or suggested repeatedly, I don't know that it's likely uh, to even be realistic to, for most of us, to live our lives with no concern or reference whatsoever to this idea of ourselves and wanting to have some kind of security for this person. So that's why I'm saying the zero way is not meant to be a replacement for the other ways, because the other ways are all about protecting this character and helping this character to achieve things and attain things, and that seems to keep happening. So, okay. There's no reason that I can see to turn that into the enemy that needs to be exterminated. Like, let's get rid of the ego. Let's get rid of the character. Let's get rid of this person. That just seems to be another unnecessary, unhelpful preoccupation that just perpetuates suffering and is still just more of the same. Like, oh, there's a problem here. Got to get rid of it. Got to fix it. Get somewhere else in the future. You know, in the future, there'll be this future utopia where I will have no egoic self. Won't that be nice? But what about now? That's the thing. Because all of the promises in the world for the perfected future, what good do they do you now? They don't seem to do any good right now. And that's why I'm proposing the zero way offers you some, it offers you now. All the other ways they offer you then, they offer you a way to somewhere else, which again may have relative value. But the one thing they cannot deliver is now, because they're always aiming towards somewhere else. So is it any wonder then that all the other ways result in this sense of some sort of like, oh, like not quite right, not quite here, because it's always out of center, always going somewhere else. And what I'm calling the zero way is it's just an invitation to hear as it is, as you are, not as you think you should be, not as you think that it would be nice to be, not as you hope to be. And it's not an attempt to control this, to fix this, to manage it. So if you have the expectation, okay, fine, Joey, I'll explore this zero way. And then you say, but it didn't work. Still don't, still feel uncomfortable. Well, yeah. What were you expecting? I mean, but the thing is, again, this is how we try to fit everything into that other paradigm. The other paradigm always says there's something wrong with this. I don't know what exactly it is. I might come up with a lot of different stories about it, but whatever, I'm just sure there's something wrong with this. How do you know there's something wrong? Well, because the way I feel. Well, how do you know the way you feel is an indication there's anything wrong? Well, you say, well, it's self-evident. I don't feel good. I don't feel comfortable. Well, how do you know? And we can't know because we're always referencing something else. We're comparing this to something from the past. This is uncomfortable. This is deficient. This is unsettled. This is bad. This is anxious. This is whatever. It's always compared to the past. But you don't actually know what this is. Can't know what this is, not in that way. So, as I've also repeated numerous times, because again, the question is likely to come up, okay, but what's the benefit of this? Why on earth would I do this? Only because you've realized authentically for yourself, through your own inquiry, that the ways that you've attempted to solve this so-called problem have never actually worked. And if actually maybe you realize maybe the way that I've been taught to try and solve my so-called problem is actually perpetuating the sense that there's a problem. And if only in those cases, if you have come to some kind of discovery like that for yourself, then the zero way is the invitation to discover something truly radically different, which is to actually explore here and now as it is, not compared to something else. But still, the habit for many of us is, and I've said this many times already, but I'm going to repeat it again. The habit is often to try and fit it into the old paradigm. So we say, well, wait a second. No, how do I know this doesn't seem to be working? Because I thought I was supposed to feel better and I don't feel better. No, you're not supposed to feel better because feeling better is better compared to what? Some idea that's based on the old paradigm of I know what this is and this isn't good, so I need something else that's better. How do you know what's better or worse? Only based on the past. But you haven't actually explored what this is. So if you're expecting that this should change, that's the wrong expectation. And I totally understand how frustrating this can be because of that temptation to try and cram this into the old paradigm because we're so convinced that there's something wrong and that we need to get away from this or fix it or control it somehow. And so we just fall back into, okay, I'm sure there's something wrong with this. I'll, I'll, okay, fine, Joey. I'll play along and I'll explore this nonsense of zero way only if it's going to help me to feel better. And then when you say, oh, it's not, I don't feel better, then you say it didn't work. So then again, I'm repeating myself again because I know how this can just keep going around in circles. So the antidote to that is to be really honest. And when I say honest, I'm not proposing that what I'm saying to you should be your truth. But if what I'm pointing to is something that you recognize for yourself, then this can be really helpful. So don't take this on as a belief just because I've said it. But if when you look to your actual experience, the truth for you is I've been like a dog chasing its tail because that's what I was taught. I was taught if I can just be good enough, fast enough, smart enough, pleasing enough, attractive enough, if I just keep trying and harder and harder and harder, eventually I'll be able to escape from myself. I'll be able to escape from my own experience and I'll get to this promised land in the future where I'll only experience pleasantness. I'll only experience up and never down. And if you realize that you've been doing that and that it never worked, you might have had temporary relief, it's temporary little hits where you're like, oh, it's kind of nice, kind of good. But then underlying is always this unease of some kind. It's like, oh, there's still something wrong. What do I need to do? How do I have to fix this? And if you can recognize that, then that's why I'm proposing the what I'm calling the zero way. Because if you can recognize that, okay, I've done what I was taught. I've done it. I've done it and done it and done it and done it and done it. And it never worked out. And then if you also start to like look around and you're like, oh, look at all the other people. They're doing this too. And none of them seem to have ever actually arrived. It's totally the emperor's new clothes, right? It's like nobody wants to admit because nobody wants to be no effectively nobody wants to admit that they're a fool. Because that's the story of the emperor's new clothes, right? The con men they, they have the ultimate con, right? So we're gonna make these clothes that are so fine, but a fool can't see them. So nobody wants to admit they can't see them. There are no clothes though. That's the thing. No clothes. And that's the con that's been played here is society says if you just keep trying, just try harder, faster, smarter. And nobody wants to admit it's not working. So they're just smiling politely and saying, "Oh, look, it's working. It's working for me. Well, it's not working for you. What's wrong with you? You just need to think more positively. That's just do like me. I just think positively. Happy, happy, happy. Works for me, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, I can't know for sure, obviously. I can only know my own experience. But it's sort of like in The Emperor's New Clothes when finally the one child says the emperor's naked. That child can't know that he's not the fool, right? He can't know that he's the only one who can't see the clothes. Maybe everybody else can see the clothes. Maybe that child is the only fool. It's like, okay, I can't know. I can't know. Maybe everybody else in this world is just having such a great time and it's all just working out well, following society's rules. Maybe, maybe I'm the only fool. But if I cop to, if I admit that society's rules haven't worked for me, I have failed. I have not achieved that permanent state that has been promised. I have not escaped myself. Then at least somebody said it. And maybe then you have permission to really make an honest assessment for yourself about your own experience. And if you find that despite the fact that you've also done your very best, and everybody has, we've all done our best. It's not because there's something deficient about you. I know society says that. Society says it's just because there's something wrong with you and gives you plenty of labels. You know, you've got this, that, and the other diagnosis. But it's not true. It's not because there's anything deficient about you. There's nothing wrong with you. You, it's just, you've tried hard. Everybody has. Everybody's tried their very best, their level best. And if it just hasn't worked for you, it might be because the way and the many ways that society has offered to you simply are incapable of ever offering you yourself as you are right now. It's the one thing that's been missing the whole time because society's ways all point you somewhere else. And this, what's actually found here, what I find here, I can't say anything really about it because anything that I would say about it is me grasping at something from the past. Now, I can say I can try to point using words from the past, and some of those words are going to be more or less useful or helpful. But really, the truth is I can't say anything about it. So I can't ever get a hold on it. I can't ever say, now I know what it is. Now I've got control over it. Now I'll hold it forever. Now I'm gonna be, look at me. Look how enlightened I am. Look how secure I am. Oh, nothing's ever going to disturb me. I can't do that because it's totally ungraspable. So I have nothing, I can't like put a stake in the ground or a flag, plant a flag and say, this is mine and I'll be here forever. It doesn't give that. So it's not that it's going to adapt to my ideas. Rather, I can surrender my ideas to it. I can surrender my ideas to this. I can surrender everything to this. And, and that seems to be what's actually available. So anything that comes up, any feeling, thought, mental image, memory, projection into the future, fear, anxiety, shame, guilt, anything. So far, this seems perfectly capable of taking all of it. So rather than me trying to make it conform to my expectations and the limitations of the past, I can offer all of that to this. and not like I'm going to do it all once and then I'll be now I've finally arrived, but always now, just now, whatever it is. So I don't have to be a perfected being. I don't have to have, level 27 enlightenment. I don't need that. It's still a seductive idea, sort of less seductive than it used to be. But this idea of I'm going to get somewhere and then I'll just be able to coast forever, it's still kind of seductive. But in practice, it doesn't seem to work very well. I've not been able to make it work. I have at times thought I had arrived. I've thought, okay, now I've got it. And then so far, I've always been disappointed every time I thought that I got it. And to me, the very good news is that what's actually here always can take all of it. So it doesn't matter. The shame, the humiliation, the pride, the arrogance, the fear, whatever it is. Doesn't matter how big, how small, whatever. I can just offer it now. And how do I offer it? Just in this way that I've pointed to and invited you to explore. So it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. I mean, it's like probably this is too complicated. Anything that I've said about it's too complicated, uh, it's just this present inquiry of just noticing, but not as a intellectual process to get somewhere, but as this very intimate surrender, allowing, uh, or it's like, I mean, but that sounds almost like passive. It's not. It's like, I mean, because it's very alive. I don't know what else to call it. Energetic. So the very same uh, reality that I might call anxiety or unsettled or fear, uh, without the labels, without the stories, without the resistance, is this tremendous aliveness. And I believe that that's available to everybody all the time. So that's what I wanted to explore with you today. I hope that you found this to be freeing. For those who are here live, if you've got any questions, anything you'd like to explore, you can put them in the chat and I'll take some time to respond to those. For people who uh, will watch us on YouTube, since you made it this far, uh, probably you might be interested in uh, continuing to explore these kinds of things together. So I invite you to do that. And one way that we can remain in touch is that you can click the link that I'll put in the description that allows me to be able to share with you how you can join these meetings live. Then you can also ask any questions that you have. I'll also be sharing with you uh, a short guide that I put together that introduces some of the uh, basic concepts that I have found to be the most among the most useful for uh, skillful living and what I would call real transformation. So if that's of interest to you, you can just click the link and get access to that. So for those who have things that you put in the chat, I'll respond to those now. Uh, so the first one, it says, um, is the 0 day spreadable by disciples? The zero way. Uh, Spreadable to who? Spreadable to where? The uh I mean I think if you're really inquiring, then uh this idea of needing to spread anything to anyone or anywhere kind of dissolves. And then 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 we get to find out. We just get to find out. I what I do here is when it's particularly skillful and good and honest, there's no premeditation. Uh, as a human with all of the programming and conditioning that I have, of course, I bring a lot of unskillful things into the mix, unnecessary fear-based scheming and planning and things like that, and whatever. I mean, I guess that is what it is, um, but for the most part, my intention is just to be present and not to try and scheme. And so then I just get to find out what happens. I don't have an agenda. I'm not here to convert anybody or save the world or save anybody. Uh, because what I'm sharing here or inviting you to discover for yourself may reveal to you. Certainly what it reveals to me is there's nobody who needs saving. There's no world that needs saving. There's nothing that needs to be spread. And that doesn't mean that nothing's going to happen. It might certainly look like something's spreading, but if it looks like that, then it looks like that. But that's not the intention. Uh, from a uh, people we love stories and drama, and so from a marketing perspective, I mean, it would be so much more effective to have a movement, spread something, I mean, that's a thing, right? That's what the marketers say that is effective, and it seems like it is. It's like Christianity, what didn't seem particularly effective as a uh, movement until it became a movement. It's not clear that it was a movement until it became one, where there's an agenda of we got to, this is what we stand for, and we're going to save people. So, and then it became extraordinarily effective. So, from a marketing perspective, I think it'd be much more effective if this was a movement that, if there was a movement, and if it had a message like, going to save 100 million people from this particular form of suffering by the year, whatever. Um, but that's not really what this is about. Um, Somebody says, Joey, are you for real? I don't know. Depends what you mean. Um, I would say for real. Am I for real? I'm of real. I am of real. For real, I'm not sure. No, probably not, because that would presuppose that there's someone separate from reality who is an advocate of that, but probably that wouldn't be true. Okay, somebody says my dog was very scared at the thunder sounds, so I couldn't focus fully. I'll try to not make so many thunder sounds next time, but I can't make any promises. This is a joke, not a good joke. Can you summarize a bit, please? I'm always full of questions anyway. Can I summarize? Um, can I summarize? Perhaps here's the summary. Perhaps there's nothing wrong. Find out. And then if you want um, more elaboration on that, then you can watch the recording. Uh, okay, so I think there's a question here. Uh, so longish comment. I'll just read it. So this person writes, I've been seeing someone for a few months now. We are long distance, so only see each other in short increments. Based on his actions and time we've spent together, I had come to assume that we were moving towards a relationship and exclusivity, but recently I found out he doesn't want to be exclusive. I'm quite devastated. We have an upcoming trip planned together, and I don't really want to cancel it, but I'm currently stuck between wanting to be just detached enough and then cutting him off completely once the trip is over or just ending things now. Let me just verify. I think, okay, I think this is the same person, different device. Maybe it got, I think it's the same person. No, different. Just, all right. Okay, so in response to this, so you had an expectation of this is what I'm understanding. You had an expectation um, that you recently um, got some evidence that conflicts with your expectations. The expectation was that he was also interested in exclusivity in this relationship, and you recently got evidence that he is not interested in that. And so now you're trying to figure out how to manage uh, how you feel and your actions. Um, have you, uh, I mean, a couple of things that come to mind. One is that the uh what you're describing where you say so you have this upcoming trip planned and you don't want to cancel it, but you're currently stuck between just to be just attached enough and then cutting it off completely or just ending things now. So uh so these ideas, these thoughts about you could do this or you could do that, are, if I'm understanding correctly, these are strategies or ideas you have about how you could manage uh, how you're feeling. So uh, you're feeling how you're feeling, and you are having some struggle with that, and you're seeking for some kind of strategy that will allow you to manage that so that you can have you're wanting to predict accurately how you can control how you will feel in the future so that you can have a better feeling state in the future. If you disagree with anything that I'm saying, you can let me know. But that's what I'm understanding. And um, I'm pretty sure that's what all of us are doing most of the time in our lives. And to a certain extent, I guess, like I've said earlier, I don't know that that's realistic that we're going to get away from that anytime soon. I mean, I think that's just part of how it is that we function as humans, and there may be certain benefits in that. I'm not sure. But there are obviously some trouble. There's some trouble that comes from that if that's all that we know. And so if you, what I have found is that um, I usually find it quite helpful to go to explore my experience in a subtler dimension prior to the level at which I'm feeling stuck. So it sounds like you're feeling stuck because you say, I'm currently stuck between wanting this or that. And so if you're feeling stuck, what I would can suggest based on my own experience is if I feel stuck, then I find it useful to go to a subtler level of my experience prior to the stuckness. So the stuckness in this case is at the level of I want an outcome where I feel better. And this story that I'm believing is that I can't feel better if I uh, don't make a particular kind of change or exert control in this relationship in a particular way. And then you're seeing only these two options. I can do this or I can do that in order to have that outcome. But neither of those options, as you're imagining them, is really providing you with the outcome that you want. So hence the feeling stuck because neither one seems like a great option, but it seems like the only two options. This is what I would call a rock and a hard place. So you feel stuck between a rock and a hard place because neither one seems great. And so again, what I would find helpful in such a situation, if I'm feeling stuck between a rock and a hard place, is to recognize that I'm doing this to myself by fixating at this level of my internal process where I'm imagining I have these two options, rock, hard place, rock, hard place. And I just keep trying to navigate how am I going to, which one will I choose, the rock or the hard place, the rock or the hard place? And neither of them seems good. So the subtler dimension for me would be to notice, well, what is it? And this is very much in line with the theme of today would be to notice, okay, but what's actually happening here now? So I'm assuming that I need to get away from this. So whatever is happening now I'm assuming is a problem, and I need a solution to this problem. And the solution that I've come up with in my mind is either rock or hard place. And I feel very stuck because I'm certain I need to get away from this, but the only two options that I've come up with are rock and hard place. And as long as I stay at that level, rock or hard place, then I'm very likely to stay stuck. So I would personally bring it back to let me investigate this right now. So I'm assuming that I know something about this. I'm assuming that this is bad. I'm assuming I need to escape from this. I'm assuming that I need a strategy. But actually, I don't really know what this is. I might have stories about it. I certainly have stories about it. I can tell all kinds of stories about it. And if I don't have a story about it, I can consult my friends, my family, YouTube. There are plenty of stories that people will give me, right? I mean, he's a narcissist, he's a this, he's a that. I mean, there's so many stories. So no shortage of the stories, but the stories don't seem to give me what I really want. So I would just stay with what is actually happening and let me actually just come into direct contact with what's really happening here. And then see what emerges. That's unpredictable. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what will emerge. However, one thing I can say about it is what's likely to emerge statistically would be something other than rock and hard place. At least it opens up other possibilities. Probably not exactly the kind of answer you were looking for, but hopefully you will find that useful. And if you don't like that answer, you can let me know and I can maybe come up with something else. Okay, so another another one here. Same, I got confused because the same name, but same person, two people's names, same name, different devices. So I'm not sure if this is a different person or same person, but I'll read this one. It says, I get heartburn almost daily that creates chest pain and restriction that I mistake for anxiety constantly. It's so intense at times, I assume from a food, but I can never figure out what is actually causing the physical reaction. Nevertheless, I connect this physical pain with anxiety, and it fuels extremely fearful thoughts and reactions in my mind. So it's so difficult to deal with, but when I take medication for the heartburn, then the pain goes, and so does anxiety. Maybe I can get relief and break the connection while I'm trying to figure out what is causing the pain. Would you think that is possible? Uh, would you think that is possible? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that statement when you say you could get relief and break the connection while trying to figure out what's causing the pain. Um, so with that said, that I'm not exactly sure precisely what you mean by that statement. Would I think that it's possible? Yes, definitely, because I think anything is possible. How likely is that? I don't know because I don't know exactly what you mean. Um, so if you want to uh, elaborate or be more specific and precise about what you mean when you say maybe I can get relief and break the connection while I'm trying to figure out what is causing the pain, then I might be able to um, say something more specific about that. Uh, what I can say though is that it seems like a very potentially useful observation that you made that you're experiencing you have how do I phrase this? You are experiencing as a process. Okay, so experiencing is happening, and and that experiencing uh, seems to consist of these different qualities that are co-arising together. So one of those you call chest pain, one you call restriction, so one that you call anxiety. And so the thinking process wants to like separate them out and say, okay, what is it? Is it this or is it that? But what you're actually, I think, reporting is that there's experiencing, which is actually is comprised of these co-arising qualities. So as far as you can say, things are connected. Maybe they're connected, or maybe they're aspects of the same occurrence. Uh, and so that seems like a really useful observation that then seems to also be um, corroborated by what you report about when you take medication for the heartburn, then the pain goes, and so does the anxiety. So, um, does that prove anything? No, but it seems to corroborate this uh, other observation of the co-arising qualities of phenomena. So, then uh, maybe it would be useful to explore the possibility that these are uh, aspects of this is not exactly precise language, but I'll just say maybe it could be useful to consider that these are aspects of a single phenomena rather than separate things. And in that case, if that happened to be true, then perhaps then they all of them offer you uh, a potentially useful way of viewing it. So, like, so what I mean by that is, okay, so if heartburn, uh, which you might think of as being a purely physiological thing, um, is also connected to pain, which maybe you also think of as a purely physiological phenomena or not. I'm not sure how you think of that. And then, and that also seems to be connected to uh, anxiety. And maybe you're accustomed to think of an anxiety as somehow in a different domain of experience, like that's somehow psychological or something. Um, then if you just understand, if you just start to be curious about these aspects um, as that they're just co-arising qualities of maybe a singular phenomena, and maybe you just start to think about them rather than one causing the other. I mean, it could be that it one causes the other, but maybe it's not like that. Maybe the relationship is not causative. Maybe it's not that there's a physiological cause which produces heartburn and then that produces pain and that produces anxiety. It could be that, but maybe not. Maybe uh they maybe like I said, they're just qualities of a singular phenomenon. And if you just start to explore it in that way, then maybe they all offer you valuable angles to explore. Uh, because maybe it is purely a physiological thing. Maybe there's just certain foods that that are triggering this. Um, maybe it's maybe it's because of like because like you wrote here that uh you connect this physical pain with anxiety and it fuels extremely fearful thoughts and reactions in your mind. It could be that kind of pre suggests that the pain causes the anxiety. Could be, though, that the fearful thoughts and reactions in your mind are the cause of the physical pain. I'm not saying it is. And I'm also not suggesting that it's one dimensional. I'm just proposing that it might be useful without landing somewhere and saying concluding this is it. It might be useful just to start to explore it from different angles and see what you discover through that. Uh, okay, so somebody here writes, do you have suggestions on how I can mix breath awareness with this? We talked about it last week, and I mentioned fear. How can I deal with it since I'm really gravitated to this for a while now? Well, breath awareness is offering a um, way into this exploration. When you're just aware of the breath, then there's, I mean, that's all that there is. And it's not that there's that you are breathing or even that you are being breathed. There's just, and it's not even that you are aware of the breath. There's just simply this. I mean, so it is uh, kind of a way in or a way to explore this. Um, I don't remember specifically uh, what you said about fear, but uh, fear is a common way of thinking about what it is that many of us encounter. Uh, so, I mean, I think fear is that's just a word and a story. But I think that that's a word and a story that many of us would use to describe what it is that we encounter that seems to always be here that we're trying to get away from. Because society teaches us to try to get away from fear. And it would be great, except that it doesn't work. I mean, it works in certain contexts. I mean, fear is there for a reason because it does work. If you feel afraid of the predator and you get away from the predator, then you live for another day. So it works. But the problem is when the core of our being, we're perceiving fear and we think we need to get away from that. That just doesn't work because how are you going to get away from yourself? But that's what society keeps promising is that you're going to be able to get away from yourself. It's like you say, I'm afraid, and society says, oh, don't worry, just buy this thing and then you can get away from it. And um, so that's what this invitation that I'm offering here is just to start to recognize that that's never, it doesn't seem like that's ever going to work. How am I going to get away from myself? I'm afraid. Again, that's just a story about it. But if that's seems to be the case, if it seems like, okay, there's this fear, or maybe you call it discomfort. Some, people might call it by lots of names, but since you're using the word fear, then okay, there's fear. And I want my conditioning is to get away. But uh, when I'm really honest, that doesn't work. I can't get away from myself, no matter how hard I've tried. I've never been able to get away from myself. So even though the conditioning just continues to insist, if the conditioning is to call this fear, then the conditioning is going to, as long as that conditioning is there, the conditioning is going to say, get away, get away, get away. Fear is bad, got to get away. But if you realize through your own inquiry, not because I said so, but if you actually look for yourself and you realize that that's not likely to work, it's never worked, it doesn't seem like it's going to work, uh, then even though that conditioning is there saying get away, get away, get away, it's possible to just be curious, to um, recognize that this is to actually know what this is, to really deeply uh, directly experience what this is the one thing that you've never done. You've done lots of the other things, but the one thing that fundamentally you've never actually done is go all the way into the heart of yourself, to the heart of what you call fear. And therefore, maybe even though the conditioning says get away, uh, it could happen that you realize that you have to find out because you're so tired of being unfulfilled. You're so tired of chasing your tail. This is something that can only happen authentically for you. You can't do it because somebody else says it's the thing. But if you investigate for yourself and you realize that, then that would be uh, that's a possibility. And breath awareness can be helpful for that because it does offer a very potentially gentle method for this inquiry because like I said earlier, the for many of us, we're still trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be. We're still trying to come up with a plan for how we're going to apply this to the rest of our life. Whereas really the actual invitation is just to right now. It's to this very instant. And that really is not threatening because this is all there is. But our minds usually uh, turn that into something very threatening. It turns it into this kind of death. Oh no, it's going to be so awful. I'm going to be tortured and tormented forever if I'm not armoring myself. And so, if that is very challenging, breath awareness can be a very gentle way in because breath awareness it isn't focused on what's going to happen or having any particular outcome. It's just really focused on just this. Uh, so hopefully I've said enough about that. I'm just looking through these other comments. I'm not seeing questions in them, so I'm going past the ones I don't see questions in. Okay, so the person about the relationship thing is elaborating. And they say, I guess I'm just still processing so much hurt and sadness right now that my mind is instinctively trying to think of ways to protect myself. The thing is, I'm very clear that I want a long-term relationship, but we're clearly misaligned on that. So I'm just unsure how to continue since I've obviously also grown to care for him. Yeah, I mean, so there's some clarity there, right? So you have clarity that you want a long-term relationship. And then you say we're clearly misaligned on that. That part I don't know. I don't know how I would. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know if you know that. Maybe you do. Uh, but from what you've written, I just can't know if you could know that. Um, because I think there's a difference. Yeah, I just don't know. Um, but then you say, I'm just unsure how to continue. Uh, right. So, and that's where the confusion comes in is because uh, the thinking was I'm doing this for that, right? So I'm uh, I'm interacting with this person because this is going to give me a long-term relationship. And again, I'm not saying that that's wrong or bad. We all do that to some extent in our lives. And maybe for maybe there's good that comes from that. Um, and then, but you're also experiencing some of the negative effects of that, which is it's like, okay, I this is transactional. I'm doing this for that. And then when it seems like, well, that now now I'm unsure whether that is going to happen. So why am I going to do this? If this is for that, and I'm not sure that that is going to happen, why am I doing this? Because this was only for that. And that again, that's valid. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I think part of the confusion is coming from this was transactional. This was for that. And now that is in question, then you're confused. Well, why am I going to do this? Because the only purpose of this was for that. And uh, maybe you could find it helpful to question whether it's true. Is this only for that? If this is only for that, and this and that is not going to happen, then you have an answer, right? It's like if it's sort of like for a lot of people a job, right? It's like for most people, their job is only for that, right? It's only for the money. Most people are not going to show up for the job if there's no money, right? I mean, it's just how it goes. So if you're working a job and then your employer says, and by the way, we're not going to pay you anymore, then it's like, well, uh, the only reason I was showing up was for the money, so I'm just not going to show up anymore. That's pretty clear. So you could do that. Maybe that would be useful to examine if the only reason to have any interaction with this person, if the only reason to go on this trip is because you have a contract for that in the future, then and if he's saying, actually, I'm canceling that contract, not gonna there's not going to be any of that in the future, then it's like, well, yeah, the only reason I was doing this was for that. And if you're not going to sign the contract for that, then I'm out of here. And that's valid. It's totally valid. But that could be a useful exploration. Is that actually true for you? If that is true, then you have your answer. If that's not true, well, then it would be valuable for you to have clarity about what is the value of this. And um, and is the value of this aligned with your values? And is it then worth exploring this for what this is, not for that? And if so, then you have an answer there. Um, and there's no right or wrong in that. There's just whatever is true for you. Okay, this person says, I feel a lot of relief when I relax into the idea of zero. However, fear and anxiety soon creep back in. How will my dreams and aspirations ever come true if I never worry about or strive for them? Is it true that if I do quiet my mind and feel this zero relief more often, for the primary sake of feeling better, that these goals will come to me much easier as an almost byproduct of feeling better? Um, that is an excellent question. And I say it's an excellent question because I've certainly um, experienced a lot of what you're describing there, and I imagine many other people probably have and will. Um, and so I doubt that my response to this is going to be satisfying to you in the way that you imagine that you want. Um, but it's my honest response to this. So, um, so the so the fear and anxiety soon creep back in. And I would say that when I examine fear and anxiety are a story that I tell about what's happening, but they're not the actuality of what's happening. So if I if I turn this inquiry into a method so that I can get an outcome, and I think, okay, I'm going to relax into zero, and oh, I feel better. Oh, it worked. And then oh, but now the fear and anxiety are creeping back in. Then I've uh turned it into a way to get to something. But so it's just another one of the many ways that to get to something. But the one of the inherent features of such ways is that they're not permanent. That's just the nature of it. The suffering comes from expecting that it will be permanent. If I get there, I'll stay there forever, right? If I can get to, oh, now I've relaxed into zero. Oh, it's so nice. And I'll get to stay here forever. That's the that's the deception. But the reality is, if you get there, if there is somewhere other than here, if there is if is something exclusive that doesn't allow for whatever is showing up, then that is not going to be permanent. And so then as soon as that goes, I'll be seeking for the next way to get to the next place. And and then I'll call whatever's showing up by whatever names that I call whatever I think the problem is. So I'll call it, in this case, fear and anxiety. So I say, ah, it worked. I got there. Oh no, now I'm not there anymore. Now there's fear and anxiety. So I'm just back on the hamster wheel, just chasing. Next, 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 next. Um, so that's the first piece. And then you say, how will my dreams and aspirations ever come true if I never worry about uh, or strive for them? And so, uh, and again, I'm not proposing that dreams and aspirations, goals, and so forth are problematic or that you should not have them or strive for them. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, um, but I'm definitely not saying that you shouldn't. Uh, and what I'm proposing today through this exploration is not meant to be a replacement or substitute for uh, striving for things or planning or scheming or reaching for things or anything like that. Um, and then I would ask this question as a counter to your question in a sense. Uh, so how well has worrying about or striving for your dreams and aspirations actually worked out for you? Not in terms of achieving the things that you set out to achieve, but in terms of actually delivering what you really want. Because if your answer to that is it's worked out great, then you don't need anything else. It's already working, right? Don't fix what's not broken. So if it's already working, keep doing it. If your answer to that question is, well, it didn't actually deliver to me what I really am longing for. It gave me other things, but it didn't give me the real, true, lasting peace, contentment, whatever it is that I'm actually looking for. Those are totally loaded terms, and sorry that I use them, but I'll leave that there for now. So if that's if that's your answer is that it hasn't actually given you really, truly, deeply all the way what it is that you're really looking for, well, then I would suggest it's really worth exploring. Can can it? Like, is it just a matter of uh you need to strive for more, bigger, better, or more correct dreams and aspirations in order to give yourself that, or might there be some other flaw in that whole way of looking at it? And again, I am not suggesting that you should not uh, have goals that you strive for. I'm just pointing out that for most of us, uh, they can only offer whatever they can offer, and they can't offer something else. And if underneath everything, the real underlying motivation uh, is I just want to get away from whatever this is that I'm experiencing as a problem now, then nothing can give you that. Because if you really examine it, I'm pretty sure what you'll find is that what you're trying to get away from is you, and this is not going to work. So if you happen to discover that, then it no longer is about your goals and dreams and aspirations. It's about something else. It's about you actually and I don't know what you want to call it. I mean, we could call it by a lot of names: peace, contentment, freedom, whatever you want to call it. It becomes about that instead of the dreams and aspirations. So then the dreams and aspirations is one track, and whatever we want to call this other thing, peace, contentment, that's another track. Track's the wrong word, but these two different domains, and they coexist. So you can have both. In fact, I would say both are, in some sense, are necessary. So putting them, saying that it's like either or, I think is um, a false dichotomy that just keeps most people stuck. So both. And then the question, which I think you're asking later on, is do they somehow relate to one another? And yes, probably they do. So you're saying if I do quiet my mind and feel this zero relief more often, will these goals come to me much easier? So just a point of clarification, it's not about quieting your mind. The You don't need to quiet your mind. Maybe your mind will quiet, but it doesn't have to. Because that's the mind doing its thing is over here, and then zero or peace, whatever you want to call it, is over here. They so quiet mind, loud mind, whatever, that's over here. It's doing its thing. It's doing mind to whatever degree it does its thing. That is doesn't over here is independent. It's unaffected. So it's not like, okay, only if I can have a quiet mind, then I've discovered zero. It seems like that sometimes because it's easier and it's easier, I think, when the mind is quiet to recognize zero. But zero doesn't depend upon a quiet mind. So, and I'm just pointing it out because otherwise you'll just keep chasing. You'll think, oh, I need a quiet mind in order to have zero. So you don't need to do that. Um, and you say for the primary sake of feeling better. It's not for the primary sake of feeling better. Because if the primary intention is to feel better, again, that's over here. That's okay. How's my mind? How are my feelings? Am I achieving? Did I get the thing? Did I not get the thing? Am I up? Am I down? That's all over here. And over here is zero. And so whether you're feeling better or not feeling better, zero is unaffected, which is really good news, according to me. Um, so, but then the question is, well, will the goals come easier to you? So I would say it's very difficult to know for sure because uh, I don't know how you could create a controlled experiment. I don't think there's I don't know how you could do that. I don't know how you could like have these two, like, okay, over here I'm going to set up this experiment where exactly me and exactly with exactly everything, I'm going to keep doing what I've always done, and I'm going to ignore zero, and I'm just going to worry. and see how does that work out for me. And then over here, I'm going to keep everything exactly the same, except I'm not going to worry, and then see which one gives faster results. I don't know a way to do that. Um, so I don't know the answer to the question. Subjectively, it seems to me that uh, uh, there's by accessing zero, there is, uh, and again, this is just my subjective perception of it. I don't know that this is true, but it seems to me then there's a falling away of whatever is unnecessary and unaligned. And therefore, there's greater alignment of action and outcomes. So is it easier? Maybe, but uh, I just look at it as I'm just done making myself miserable. That's the main thing. I just don't want to make myself miserable. And so whether I achieve, you know, whatever is not as important to me as just not being miserable. You know, like uh, so that's what's interesting. That's what's important to me. Um, and so the how easily I achieve things that I don't even want or that are result in misery is not important to me. I don't care to achieve things that I don't want or that result in me being miserable. And so for me, that's clear, relatively clear. Whether or not that's clear to you, I don't know. I think that's just something that you can inquire into and figure out what do you really value, and that would probably be then clearer to you. And then I'm gonna quickly go through the others that are here in the chat, and then I'm gonna wrap up because I've got an appointment at 2, and I gotta leave myself a few minutes for lunch. Um, so so this question says, can we do it every day while feeling whole and going after your dreams? Sure, why not? I mean, I think that's a great question. And I like that. That's for me. That is a living question. Um, so I like that's just an ongoing living question, and I invite you to because that's coming up for you. I would invite you to also explore that, and I would be very interested to hear your report about what you discover and how well that works for you. Okay, so the person who asked about breath awareness says, I have a fear of breath awareness since when I do the breath awareness, something starts like I can feel that something is revealing itself. I get afraid of losing my mind or maybe myself. Okay, yeah. So then that um just explore that edge. I mean, because I think no matter what we do, this we're gonna be exploring that edge anyway. Most of the time, we're trying not to. I think this is why distraction is so easy to sell because people really they think they want to be distracted from that exploration of the edge. And yet, that edge, what I'm calling the edge of where we're like, oh, I feel uncomfortable, I feel afraid. That's what we're thinking we need to avoid. Uh, and uh, of course, sometimes people then flip that. They realize, okay, that's not working. Trying to avoid it isn't working. Therefore, I'm going to now go straight in to the fear. I'm really going to push myself into the fear. I don't care if I'm afraid of losing my mind. I'm going to whip myself and get right in there to the fear. If I lose my mind, it's great. But that I don't think that works very well for me, at least, and probably not for most people. So I just find that a gentle exploration of the edge uh, works better. So instead of, like if you find, oh, I'm feeling this, what I'm calling fear, I'm feeling this, whatever this is, then just notice, well, like what's the conditioning that's making that into a problem? What's the conditioning that's trying to either retreat away from that or push yourself further into it? And could you just allow yourself to be here with whatever this is? And if that seems too much, then ease up a little bit. And if that seems like too much, ease up even more. You don't have to, there's no rules like you should do this, you should try harder, you should push more, because you're not even going to get somewhere. That's the thing, is all those rules are about getting somewhere, as if you just push harder, then you'll arrive sooner. But I don't think there's anywhere to arrive to, because again, this is an invitation to where you already are, to who you already are. So when you start to explore in that way by taking off the idea that you're trying to get somewhere and that faster is better and more is better and harder is better, then you could allow yourself to actually just start to be here, to explore here without an agenda of getting somewhere else, without an agenda of pushing through something. And so, and that gives you a lot more flexibility because, like I said, if this seems like too much, then you could just ease up a little bit. There's no, because it's not like, okay, more intensity means better. You could just ease up a little bit. And if that still seems like too much, then ease up more. And if it's only like you dabble for a second and that's enough, okay, fine. I mean, because you're not here to impress anybody or perform or anything like that. So it's only for yourself, just to know yourself and to be more and more intimate with yourself. So find what actually works for you, what's sustainable for you, what you can explore in a good way for yourself, and just that. And it's really ultimately your own way. It's not somebody else's way. So you have to explore that and find out for yourself. But I do think gentle seems to work better for most people. Uh, okay, so this question says, the next time I feel sad, how exactly do I go in? What exactly do I do? Uh, well, forget about the next time. And forget about even sad, because that's putting you into some other thing and trying to come up with a plan. So it's really just about now, whatever this is. And you don't know what this is, but you might have stories about it. So you might say, oh, but this isn't sad. Oh, this won't work because this isn't sad. Or maybe say, oh, it is sad. Oh, I didn't even realize. Oh, it's so sad. But whatever you just find here without it having to be something else or not be something. So whether you call this sad or you call it bored or you call it full or you call it empty or you call it good or bad or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just this. And then as you're just allowing yourself to explore this, then you don't need to have a plan for sad because this is what will show up as everything. So this shows up as sad, mad, happy, whatever. It shows up as everything. So as you just are allowing yourself to be in intimate contact with this as it is, then it gives you everything. All right. I think that's all. All right. Thanks to all of you. Blessings to you all. Take care. Bye for now.